What's going on, guys? It's New York Prepper here. I just wanted to do a video about cold weather gear and gear that you might need for bugging out during the winter time, or getting home during the winter time, or gear that you would need or you would want to have during an SHTF situation if it goes down during the winter. As you can see, I have an assortment of gear. This is all of my cold weather gear. Actually, it's not all of it, but it's most of it, and you can see it's quite extensive. It's a big inventory of gear. I've spent a lot of time and money building this gear up. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk to you about the different types of gear that I have and why I have them, and my recommendations to you guys for being prepared for the winter time. So that way, if there's some type of a disaster, an SHTF situation, you're prepared to handle it during the winter. Because cold temperatures and deep snow can make it very difficult to do anything if there's an SHTF situation, or if you're stuck, if you're bugging in, or there's some type of a disaster. You need to make sure you have the proper gear so you can move around outside, during cold temperatures. So I'm just gonna break down all the gear that I have, and I hope you enjoy the video and learn a few things. Alright guys, stay tuned. Alright guys, so it's a little bit hard for me to get everything onto the camera just because it's such a tight little space here, and I have a lot of gear laid out. So I'm going to try to go through all of my stuff and explain to you why you need these different types of gear. And all the gear that you see here I've tested myself in extreme conditions, in single digits or colder temperatures, so I know that it works. I've gone through deep snow and everything. So the important thing is you want to make sure that you test your gear, and you want to make sure, especially when it comes to cold weather, you want to make sure that you test your cold weather gear, because you don't want to find out, once you're out there in the elements, that your shoes are not warm enough, or they're too tight and you're not getting blood flow to your toes, or your jacket is getting too sweaty and you start getting chilly because of that, or your waterproofing is not that good on your pants. All these little things you're not going to find out until you actually put your gear on and test it out, go out in the elements, in deep snow, in a blizzard, in the forest, across different terrain. You want to test your gear as much as possible in different conditions, different types of terrain. This way you know what it's capable of, and that whether it's going to be adequate or not for an SHTF situation. And why would you need gear for an SHTF situation? Well, first of all, it could be for bugging out. If you have to bug out on foot, let's say you have to evacuate from your home, or you have to walk home from work and you live far away from your job, and you may have to hike 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles, and it's 15 degrees outside and there's a foot of snow on the ground. Or let's say you're driving home somewhere and you run into a blizzard and you get stuck on the side of the road, and you want to make sure you have cold weather gear with you in those situations so you can make it home safely on foot if you have to. Another thing too is if you're bugging out. If you're bugging out on foot, let's say you're escaping to your bug out location and you have to hike there, or whatever the situation is, you need to have cold weather gear for that. And another thing too is also if you're bugging in, or if there's a disaster or a blizzard, you need to have cold weather gear in case you got to go outside and do different types of tasks, whether it's gathering firewood, whether it's performing security patrols around your property. SHTF doesn't stop just because the weather is bad. You still have to do security. You know, you're still going to have to gather wood if you heat with wood. You know, you're still going to have to shovel snow. You know, you still have to do a variety of different tasks outside, so you need to have the proper clothing, so this way you can go out there in cold weather conditions, in extreme cold weather conditions, and be able to, you know, do the tasks that are required. So all right, so the first thing I'm going to go over is clothing, and then from clothing I'm going to get into, you know, other types of gear, like I have these snowshoes here, and other things, but I'm going to focus primarily on clothing and things that you wear. I'm not going to get into, you know, other aspects of cold weather gear, because that would be beyond the scope of this video. It would take too much time to fit that all into this video. So here we're just going to focus on clothing and gear that you would wear. So the first important thing is you have to make sure that you layer. You know, layering is critical, and I did a video on winter weather, winter survival, and you know, how you're supposed to dress for the winter time. But I think I'm going to recap that real quick here. So, you know, you want to make sure that you have layers of clothing when it's cold outside. So this way, if you overheat, you can take a layer off. You know, if you get cold, you can put a layer on. If you're only wearing like one layer, then you have no flexibility at all. So that's why layering is important, because if you're moving around and it's cold outside, you're gonna heat up, and you know, once you heat up, you're gonna want to take a layer off so you can cool down. If you only have like one warm jacket and like, or you know, one warm shirt, you don't have the flexibility to take a layer off to cool down. You know, you're gonna have to sweat and be wet, and then that can actually lower your core temperature and make you hypothermic. You know, you have to make sure you have layers. You want to make sure you have underwear, and what I mean by underwear is like long johns and things that you wear underneath your sweater, your sweatshirt, you know, your pants. You know, you don't want to just go bare skin, because that extra underwear layer will actually add extra warmth, and it will also prevent sweat from getting your outer layers wet. You know, so by having the under layers on, it prevents your outer layers from getting wet with sweat, because the under layers will wick that away from your skin and will hold it there. Obviously, socks are important. I have 3 different pairs of socks here. So I have these heavy wool socks. These are Cabela's brand. Doesn't matter what brand it is, as long as it's, you know, mostly wool. You want to make sure you're at least like, you know, 70% wool. A lot of companies will mix wool with other you know, things like acrylic or other things, but this is a really heavyweight wool sock. I only wear these if it's extremely cold, if it's like, you know, under 10 degrees outside, because they're just extremely thick. So you definitely want to have wool socks. The wool socks will keep your feet warm and dry, and you want to make sure that they're loose fitting. Same thing with your boots. You want to make sure your boots are loose fitting, so this way your feet can get good circulation. You don't want your circulation to get cut off, because then your toes are gonna get cold. Here's another pair of wool socks. These are a medium weight, or these are still heavyweight, but they're like a medium to heavyweight sock. Let me see if I can adjust the light here. Hold on. There we go. Okay, that's better. Sorry about that, guys. So here I have this is more like a medium to heavyweight sock. So these I use more for, like, you know, if it's cold but it's not extremely cold, then I'll wear these guys. And then I have a lightweight sock. These are also wool. Let me see if I can't, these are also wool. Sorry guys, hold on. These are also wool, but they're thin, as you can see. These are more for like, you know, lighter. These are lighter for cooler conditions, but not extremely cold. Okay, so then I have my socks. I got wool shirts here. This is a Rothko wool shirt. I'm gonna bring this over a little. There's not enough light here. This is a Rothko 100% wool sweatshirt. This is a very heavyweight sweatshirt. Here I have another wool sweatshirt here. This one is actually a Swedish one. It's a little bit lighter than the Rothko. And then here I have another wool shirt. This is a Cabela's brand. You know, this is actually a lighter weight, very lightweight, but it's also more durable. It's more of like an outer garment, so you can wear it more like in the woods. You don't have to worry about tearing it like this, like these sweatshirts. Then I have pants. I have some wool pants here, and you know, these pants, I can wear these pants underneath my bibs if I want to be a little bit warmer. These pants are great because I can wear these pants when it's cold outside, but I don't really, you know, it's not super cold. And then, you know, if I want to add extra, you know, insulation, I can throw on bibs over those wool pants for extra warmth, you know, for extreme cold. Let me see if I can't show you guys that. So here are the bibs. If you guys are not aware what bibs are, you know, you basically, these go around your shoulders here, and you know, you just wear them just like that. They're just like pants, so I can throw these over, you know, I can throw these over my pants, and it will add extra insulation. So this is for extreme cold. What else? Let's see what else here. Here I have a jacket. This would be the outermost layer. This is my outermost layer. And you want to remember, all of your garments should be waterproof with Gore-Tex or some kind of, you want to make sure you have good waterproofing, because if it's snowy outside, you don't want your jacket to get wet and then you're going to get cold. So this has a, I think it's a Gore-Tex lining, but all my gear has Gore-Tex in it, unless it's wool. And actually, even these wool pants that I have, these Cabela's wool pants, they actually have a Dry Plus lining in it. Dry Plus is basically the Cabela's version of Gore-Tex. So they sewed that underneath the wool, so it wouldn't. So you know, if I'm walking around and it's snowy outside or whatever, you know, it won't get me wet. So I covered the bibs. You know, bibs are really good to have because, like I said, you can throw them over your pants if you need extra warmth, if it's extremely cold. And I forgot to talk about underwear. So here's some examples of my underwear. This is like a medium weight underwear. This is Cabela's brand also. It's a medium weight. I don't really wear heavyweight underwear. They do sell heavyweight underwear, which is like basically wearing a sweater. And you know, here are the long johns that go with it. I'll show you guys, you know, what they look like. These are just basically, you know, long johns and just the underwear. You know, I don't like to wear heavyweight underwear. To me, it just doesn't really make sense. Because you're going to overheat. Even if it's extremely cold outside, you're going to overheat if you have heavyweight underwear, you know, plus, you know, wool sweatshirt and wool pants, and then on top of that, your outer, you know, jacket and stuff. So I like to stay with medium level, medium thickness, medium weight underwear. If for the cold climate, if it's, you know, single digits or 15 or less, then I'll wear those. And then if I have like warmer conditions, then I'm going to go with something lighter, like these. These are like merino wool, which are actually very expensive. But I have other types. You know, you can also get polypropylene. So this is just a lightweight underwear, and this is what I would wear, you know, this is the Cabela's Icebreaker merino wool. It's very thin, it's very light. You know, you can actually wear this in the summertime too. But this is what I wear when it's not super cold out. You know, if it's like, you know, up to 15 degrees or warmer, then I'll keep these guys on. And you know, if it's colder than that, then I'll throw on the medium weight underwear. So I covered the socks, I covered the sweatshirts, the wool sweatshirts, I covered the pants. You don't have to have wool pants. That's just mine. I also have other types of pants that are in my car right now. They're not wool. They're like some type of Gore-Tex lined, you know, polyester or something like that. But the key is you want to have some insulation to them, and you want to make sure that they have Gore-Tex or some type of waterproof lining, because if you have to walk in the snow, you know, you don't want your pants to get soaking wet, especially if there's a blizzard and the snow is coming down hard. If you guys have ever, you know, spent time in the snow, you know that when there's a blizzard, you know, you can get wet just because there's so much snow coming down. I covered the bibs, the jacket, the underwear. Now we'll go on to gloves. I'll show you some of the gloves I have. So you want to make sure you have mittens, okay? Mittens are really the best for cold weather, and I tie them with strings like this. This is actually a piece of rope or a paracord. So what you can do is you can wear it around your shoulder like this and take them off, because, you know, mitts, you can't do anything with them. You know, just because they're so thick, and, you know, so you don't have any dexterity with your fingers. If you have to operate a firearm, if you have to do any kind of fine motor skills, fine motor tasks which require dexterity, or fingers for that matter, you know, these mitts are going to restrict you. So you want to, what I do is I tie them on a rope like this, and if I have to do something, I can take it off, and they're just going to hang on me like this. And then I could either have my bare hands underneath, or I could wear a light glove, like these thin wool gloves underneath my mitts, which will still keep my hands warm, but I'll have some dexterity. I also have these very lightweight, you know, these are pretty much just like super lightweight, you know, like bow hunting gloves. You know, these don't have really much insulation at all. They're super lightweight, but I'll wear these underneath my mitts, you know, so this way my hands are not directly exposed to the cold weather, especially if it's extremely cold or windy. You know, if I have to take my hands out to do some kind of, you know, fine motor tasks, you know, if I have to touch something that's cold like metal, you know, I don't want to just pull these off and then have my bare skin exposed to the metal or whatever object I'm working on. I want to have a little bit of a barrier between my skin and the cold. So, you know, I'll wear these underneath my mitts. And, you know, you definitely want to have mitts for SHTF in the winter. And these mitts go up to my forearm here, so I can tuck my shirt or my jacket, you know, underneath here. And so it provides a barrier, so that way if I'm doing some kind of snow shoveling or, you know, different tasks in the snow, it's not gonna, the snow's not gonna get underneath and get into my, you know, get under into my arm or something like that. So, and you want to make sure your mitts are also water resistant or waterproof. So yeah, so here's, you know, I got my mitts, I got my liner gloves. I also have these military surplus gloves. These are trigger finger gloves, or mitts actually. So they're basically a mitt, but they have like a trigger finger on there. So you can wear this just like a mitt, but it has this extra trigger finger. And then I also have these cheap military issue liner wool mitts that also have the trigger finger on there. So you put your index finger through here, and they're supposed to work together with this, you know, so you wear this under this, and then this has like a nice leather suede palm, you know, but I really don't use these except for hunting. So, you know, I would not use these in SHTF because they're not lined with Gore-Tex. But these are really cheap, these military issue wool trigger mitts. You can get these like super cheap. They're like $2 a pop. What else? Then I also picked up these guys. These are just some Cabela's glow mitts. So what you can do is they function like a glove and a mitt. And what you can do is, you know, I have a mitt here, and rather than having to take it off, I just slide it over and my fingers are exposed. So that's pretty cool. You know, it's not as warm as a mitt, you know, but it makes it a lot more convenient than having to take your mitt off, put it back on. All I do is just, it has like an elastic band here. See, there's an elastic band, and it just, I can slip my fingers right out, you know, and then if I need to do some tasks, I can do it, you know. And so these are really nice. They have a nice leather palm here. You know, so you want some kind of mitts, and you want some liner gloves to go in conjunction with your mitts. I don't recommend just having gloves, especially for extreme cold, because gloves are not as good as mitts. They don't trap the heat as well as mitts do. So that's why mitts are better than gloves. Especially if it's extremely cold, you can take hand warmers, and you could put hand warmers inside of your mitts, and that'll make your hands a lot warmer. And trust me, that's important, especially if you're out in the cold. So on the topic of gloves, I actually picked up these. These are actually camouflage. What you do is you slide these over your mitts, and what they do is they camouflage your mitts, you know. So if you're in an SHTF situation and you're concerned about, you know, security, if let's say you're doing a security patrol, you know, and I want to make sure that I'm camouflaged, you know, I would wear these over my mitts. You know, they go over your mitts. You know, they're just cotton, and they just slide right over. There's an elastic band here, and you just slide them right over your mitts. And you know, that's another important aspect to, you know, wintertime SHTF preparedness, is making sure that you have, you know, camouflage. You never know, you know, what's going to happen, and it's better to, you know, have some camouflage, because if let's say I'm doing patrols on my property, or, you know, my bug out location, if I'm doing a security patrol, and if I'm just wearing like something like this, you know, dark pants, or, you know, one of these camouflage jackets there, it's gonna stand out like a sore thumb. You know, if somebody's, let's say, observing my location, or my bug out location, or my bug in location, if somebody's observing my area and I'm doing a security patrol around my property, and I'm wearing one of these dark colors like you see here, you're going to be able to see me from, you know, hundreds of yards away, and that could potentially expose me. So camouflage is an overlooked part of wintertime SHTF preparedness. So that's what these over mitts are for. These are over mitts is what they call them. So these go over your mitts. And then I also have this camouflage poncho here. It's a German military surplus camouflage poncho. I've worn this before in some of my earlier videos, but I'll do a test of this in this winter. I'm going to take this out and I'll show you guys how effective this is. But, you know, basically, you know, with this poncho, I can throw it over. I could throw it over whatever I'm wearing. You know, I can throw it over whatever I'm wearing. I'll show you guys right now. Let's see if I can't show you guys. Alright, so I throw this over throw this over what I'm wearing. And as you can see, it covers me up pretty well. See if I can't stand back further back. You know, it goes down to maybe my, let's see, goes down to like my knees, and I'm 6'2". So here's what it looks like. Okay, and there's just some strings here, you can tie them off. But this is great because, you know, with this camouflage, and I can just throw this over my winter gear. You know, if I'm wearing my, you know, bulky jacket and I have my backpack on, you know, I can wear this, you know, as you see these mittens, these over mitts, they cover up my hands. So I can pretty much disappear. Now I can also turn this inside out. This has those green blotches here for like a pine forest, because you know, in Germany has a lot of pine forests, so I can always turn this inside out if I want to for, you know, extra camouflage. But you know, the other side is just pure white, so that's another option. But I'm not going to do that right now. But this definitely works really well in the snow. You can easily camouflage yourself, you know, even if you just kneel down and huddle yourself like this, and there's a pile of snow around, I can just huddle down and you're not going to be able to see me. You know, I can lay down in the snow itself. If it's really deep snow, if it's like 3 feet of snow or 2 feet of snow, if I'm wearing this poncho, I can literally just huddle up into a ball and hide myself, or I can lay in the snow and you're not even going to be able to see me. You know, I can just literally bury myself in snow. So, you know, this is a really cheap and effective way of camouflaging yourself in the winter, and I highly recommend it. This also works great if you have your, you know, bug out bag or any other type of gear. You know, also I have easy access to my sidearm if I need to access my pistol, which I'm not wearing now, but I can easily access it here. It's not solid on the sides, it's just tied together. So I can easily just lift this up and have access to my pistol here, or any kind of stuff that I need if I'm wearing like a backpack or a chest rig or something like that. But this is definitely very effective and very useful, and highly recommended. It's not expensive at all, and it will increase your security. If you're doing security patrols, you know, you're going to want to wear camouflage if you're, you know, patrolling your property, because you don't want to give away your position, you know. So, and then God forbid if you have to actually get into a firefight with somebody, this is going to greatly enhance your camouflaging and, you know, reduce your visual signature. You're not going to stand out from far away. Same thing if you're bugging out. If you have to, you know, bug out from your area and you have to bug out on foot, or if you're, you know, getting home, you're hiking home from your job and you're far away from your job and it's a snowy environment, you know, having this white overcoat over poncho is going to greatly, you know, reduce the chances of you being seen by some bad person who may be observing a specific area, you know. So this will greatly enhance your security. So highly recommend it. And let's see what else. So we went over the camouflage. We got some face gear. Okay, you want to make sure if it's extremely cold, you want to protect your face. So, sorry to keep moving this on you. It's a little dark in here today because of the winter, so not as much natural light in here. But here's just a simple face mask. You know, this thing costed me $10. This is a military issue wool face mask, and then I just have a watch cap as well. If it's not as cold, then I'll wear the watch cap, also wool. And I have this polyester face mask that I wear underneath the wool one, so this way I'm not itching, you know, because wool is very itchy. So if you get like a wool face mask, you're going to be itching like crazy. And this is the military issue wool face mask. It has up here on the forehead, it has like a piece, they sew in, this is actually 2 layers, and they sew in like a piece of plastic here. So what it does is that blocks the wind if it's very windy, and the wind is blowing on your head, this will break that wind. You know, it won't blow into your forehead and cool your body temperature down through, you know, by doing that. So, and then, you know, I got this this is just a very lightweight polyester face mask, which you can wear in the summer as well. And that's just to prevent the itching from, you know, from that. And then also for hats, I have a rabbit fur hat. Let's see. What else? Sorry, I'm a little bit scatterbrained here. It's just so much to cover at once. Here I just have a rabbit fur hat. Okay, this just goes over like this. You know, this is very warm. Has a buckle on the bottom, and I can actually wear this over my wool face mask. So, you know, the wool face mask would be like my base layer if it's extremely cold outside and it's very windy. And then on top of that, I can put this, you know, I can put this, oh, that's better. I could put this over my wool face mask, and then it'll be a lot warmer that way. So, and then you could also tie it up top like that if you want to. So, you know, these are definitely nice to have, one of these rabbit fur hats, bomber hats, just to protect your ears. We got boots here. I have 2 pairs of boots. So here I have, let's see here, try to adjust the camera. So here I just have these are some pack boots. Hold on, I'm just gonna adjust the light here so I can so you guys can see better. Okay. Here I just have some pack boots, and pack boots are just very heavy duty snow boots. These were like $200 boots. I got them from Cabela's. You know, I don't know if Cabela's makes these anymore, but these are Gore-Tex, and they also have Thinsulate Ultra insulation. And then and these are my, you know, super cold, you know, extreme cold weather boots. These are, you know, fairly heavy, and you know, as you can see, they're made for, you know, cold weather. They're extremely thick inside. You know, it's really just extremely warm. These are just extremely warm boots. So you know, these are actually very clean. I take good care of my gear. I've worn all this gear and I've tested it all. So, you know, I'm not just, you know, all my gear here is tested. So, so these are for extreme cold. And then I got some lighter boots here for more moderately cold temperatures. These are the Danner Vitals. I'll do a separate video review on these, but this is more for like moderate, you know, conditions down to like 20 degrees or 10 degrees. And then if it gets below that, then I'm gonna throw on my the pack boots. So, you know, so I covered the boots, and then with the boots, you want to make sure that they're Gore-Tex. Obviously, you want to make sure that they're waterproof. And then storage. I want to talk about storage. So, if you have wool, you know, you want to make sure you store your wool in a container. Like here, I have this container. This has more wool here. I have tons of wool socks. You know, I always have spares because wool wears out very easily if you use it, especially if it's cold outside. You should always have redundancy. You should have multiple pairs of wool socks, you know, multiple wool hats, you know, wool shirts or face masks, because wool gets worn out over time. It's a natural fiber. It's not polyester, so it can wear out, it can stretch, it can loosen up, the stitching can come undone. So, but you want to make sure you store your wool inside of like a container like this. This is just a basic, you know, Rubbermaid or whatever brand. And what I do is I throw cedar inside. And what that does is it keeps the moths away, because moths will eat wool. So, and same thing with rabbit fur, any kind of organic material like that. Moths will actually eat it. So, and I'm not a big fan of mothballs, because I had a bad situation where I put mothballs with my wool, and the fumes from the mothballs are very poisonous, and I guess the fumes got out into my bedroom, and like my eyes were blurry, I couldn't see much, and it took like an hour for my vision to return, and I realized it was from the mothballs, because mothballs are toxic. So I try to stay away from mothballs. I just put some cedar, I keep it in this container, and I keep it sealed all year round, until even in the winter I keep it sealed until I need to use it, just to keep the moths out. You know, if you spend like hundreds of dollars on wool, you don't want to, you don't want to find out that half your wool gets eaten up by moths. You know, that would be very, aggravating to find that out. So, you want to make sure you take care of your wool. You want to make sure with wool that you wash it only with hand wash and with lukewarm water. You don't want to use extremely hot water. You can use lukewarm water or cold water, but you don't want to use hot water. So, you never want to machine wash or use any kind of detergents for wool. And you always want to be aware of what the washing directions are for your specific garments that you have, because some of these garments that use a lot of fancy high-tech, new design type of materials that may be sensitive to high temperatures or detergents. So just be aware of what your manufacturer tells you to do to keep things clean. So I think I covered most of it, and then finally I'm going to go over my snowshoes here. Snowshoes are critical. All right, so I've had these for probably 7 years now. This was actually a gift from somebody, and these are Cabela's brand. They don't even make these anymore because Cabela's downsized their stock. But these are the Cabela's Trans-Alaskan snowshoes. They're pretty expensive snowshoes, very lightweight and very comfortable to use. Now, why do you need snowshoes? Well, if the snow is very deep and you have to walk any bit of distance, like a mile or more than a mile, snowshoes are going to tremendously help you. If you've ever had to walk in deep snow, I'm talking about like over 1.5 feet of snow, and you're in a forested environment or even on a paved environment, it's very difficult to walk in deep snow for long periods of time. You're going to expend a lot of calories, and it's going to be a lot slower to cross distances, if you don't have snowshoes. So, with these snowshoes, I've actually tested these out, and I'm 250 pounds right now, 255, and I've actually worn these shoes with full gear on and a backpack. I've actually walked over like 5 to 6 foot deep snow drifts and snow piles, and I didn't even sink at all, like maybe a foot if that. So you can really just glide on the surface of deep snow. Even if you're walking over deep snow drifts, even 3-4 foot snow drifts from drifted from the wind, you can, if it's powdery snow. I've personally walked in deep snow drifts with this shoe here. 3 foot, 4 foot snow drifts with powder, all powdery snow, and I just glided right on the top, even with all my heavy weight that I have. And this will really help you out, especially if it's an SHTF or a bug out situation and you have to bug out, and it's deep snow and you have to evacuate, or if you're doing security patrols on your property or around your community, after a grid down event, these snowshoes will give you a huge advantage. And then finally, and these snowshoes come with some poles. You always want to make sure you have poles with your snowshoes, because if you lose your balance, you need to correct your balance, whatever. Then I just have these micro spikes, traction Catula micro spikes, and these go over my boots. What these are is they're just like a rubber. It's just like a rubber, thing that goes over your boots. And the chains on the bottom here, they have spikes on them, okay, and they're pretty sharp. And so what you do is you just slide these over your boots, and it's basically like tire chains for your boots. So that's good for, like, you know, icy conditions or light snow. These are really good. And, you know, these are good for conditions where you don't need to go up to a snowshoe yet, but you know, it's more than like 2-3 inches of snow and you still need a little bit of traction, but you don't need a snowshoe just yet. Then I'll wear these, you know, up to like a foot of snow. These are fine. After a foot of snow, I usually go up to the snowshoes. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's kind of long, but I wanted to cover everything. And you know, you should always make sure you're prepared for every season. Don't just be prepared for the summer, you know, because SHTF is going to happen when you're least expecting it. It's not going to happen on a clear, sunny day, you know, with 65 degrees or 70 degrees outside. It can happen at any time. It could happen, you know, during a blizzard. You know, it can happen, you know, in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the winter. So you need to be prepared for any kind of weather condition. And I feel that winter time is an area that a lot of preppers overlook, and they underestimate how difficult it is to survive in the winter time. And you know, if you have to bug out during the winter, it's extremely difficult. Even with the best gear, it's very hard to do. But if you don't have any gear at all, then you're in big trouble. So, you know, get yourself some basic winter gear similar to what I showed you guys here today. And I think that will tremendously improve your prepping situation and your capabilities, you know, to defend your family and survive an SHTF situation. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. God bless.